Greetings everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Visual Process Management. Make processes visual and improve process understanding. As always, happy to have you all here with us. I am Arta Lamani, the Account Manager of Quality Management Systems here at PECB and the organizer of this webinar. Our guest for today is Markku Kylmänen, CEO and Senior Business Consultant at MKC Finland Limited, with over 30 years of experience in consulting, business development, and quality, environmental and safety management systems. Markku is surely an expert in his field, but he is also very ambitious at showing his professional skills to an interested audience. Markku was an attendee in several of our past webinars and used the opportunity to express his ideas and then elaborate them to our webinar audience. You can all be a part of our webinars and take this opportunity and do the same. So if you are aware of a topic that you would like to discuss and participants would benefit from, please feel free to write down your suggestions in the survey at the end of the webinar. We are strongly committed to providing our audience with updated and useful information. On that note, please feel free during the webinar to write your questions and comments in the question box in the right-hand control panel, or you can use the raise hand function. We will unmute you and you will have a chance to ask the question directly to Markku. Markku will answer all questions accordingly at the end of the presentation. Thank you. Please, Markku, you may continue with the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Arta. And thank you for the invitation. As you said, I would say that you never ought to have a second opinion of, when it goes to the presenter, and therefore I'm here because I made a comment, and here we are. Okay. My basic job position, what I'm doing, I'm running a company called MKC Finland Limited, and as Arta told about what is all about consulting business and business development and training and so on. Today it's more and more being also contract-based services. That means I'm complementing companies' resources, whether it goes to quality, environmental or safety matters. It can be also operational duties. I've been doing inspector certification via inspector certification nowadays, but I started being responsible for certification for the Norske Veritas. I was working for the Norske Veritas about 10 years, and just to make a short jump, in Europe, so I was responsible for building up a DQS Finland unit in Finland for DQS a couple of years ago. But I came back to inspector to do this certification, continue with their cooperation. This visual process management, what I'm going to do and go through, is it's very important that at least in Finland we are going very fast with this. But on the other hand, there are very many companies and people who don't really actually understand what is a process, and not to talk about process management. And therefore, the title is a little misleading, possibly. It's not concentrating on process management. I'm starting from the basics, what is process all about, and then we describe how to visualize the process itself, and then we are in the beginning or at the end of this session going through how to visualize process management. I guess very many of the listeners are familiar to the renewed ISO 9001 standard that was renewed last year, 2015. And I think I've been using this slide very often when I'm doing this training in Finland regarding what is the process. And if you think about the general description is that we have the sources of inputs, activities, outputs, and receivers of the outputs. In the process we have start and end, so this is very common. But what makes this, let's say, a good and manageable thing is that we have process development part here, where we monitor and measure and increase the performance. And this is one of those basic things. And to start with this definition, I would say that very simply, process, that's it. When we think about process, they are thinking about the ISO 9001 standard, and there are many similar definitions. There are certain things that have to be included in the process. As shown in the previous slide, inputs and outputs have to be defined. Then we have a sequence, what's happening and when and so on. And we have different processes that are interacting with each other. So that is something we are coming later on a little more closely. Criteria and methods. What are the criteria? What does this process have to complete and get? What are the results? What does it have to do and so on? What is good? What is bad? And so on. Criteria. We are talking about KPIs later on, so that we get this effective operation and control of the process. So this is very important. When we have defined what to do, then we have to also define the resources needed. And when we are talking about resources, we have to define responsibilities and authorities. And here we have some definition, process owner, that we are discussing very shortly later on. But this is something that makes a process guidable and steerable. Today, especially when thinking about the new standard ISO 9001, it goes all the same for the 14001 environmental management standard. So risk and opportunities, interested parties are very important here. We are talking about the context of a company and the context of the process. But altogether, when we put these things together, we have to be able to evaluate the processes and implement any changes needed for that if it needs to be improved. So improvement of the process and its performance is very, very vital here. And this slide actually is defining, I put the simple 7. So they are the main characteristics that has to be defined for the process. But we require something else. There has been a lot of talk about what to document, do we need documentation, and so on. And actually we need two ways of the documentation: instructions, advice, whatever it is, to support the operation of the process, what to do, how to do the things. Then we need to define what are the results to have confidence that the process is being carried out as planned. And I'm discussing with this later on a little more, but there are some ideas to minimize the documentation, and that was actually the first clue why I am here, because I had a second opinion about that. When you think about, we have a process, it's described, and having those things we were discussing already. What makes it it's manageable process? In a company or organization, you can discuss. There are very many processes, and it's very important to think that that process we are talking about is a part of a company-wide process management. And when we are talking about process management, we are talking about performance at the same time. And performance improvement, okay. Now this process ownership, at least in Finland and severally all over the world, actually, it's a common name and thing. but the standards are not defining that. It's no problem. Never mind. Process ownership and the team that is running the process, that is very important. And the team process owner, based on the performance, should measure, evaluate, and develop the process. The process KPI should have goals, and these KPIs should be a part of the company-wide process structure and company-wide KPIs. Very often that is, we are talking about balance scorecard and so on. But when we think about process management, at least in Finland, very often you forget that based on these KPIs and the information how the process is going, do we have problems or whether or not. So you ought to be able and use sometimes every now and then, I would say at least once a year, to think about the KPIs, information about the process, and think, do we have to improve the process itself? It's not always, we should be not always be talking about what is the output. Of course that is important and that is what counts. But are we carrying out the process the way that the output is best possible? And when thinking about this, we are coming to the normal company meetings, meeting structure and organization and departmental things and so on. But this, let's say, process management should be a part of the development system in the company, part of the meetings and well-defined meetings, I would say. When we now think about the visualizing process or processes, so first I would like to discuss a little why do we need the process and who is using those, who needs and why. Here I come back to the question I took up in the beginning about the documentation. The process should be as real as possible and as detailed enough as possible to be able to deliver the information how things are going on. And here there are really some items or institutes and companies, persons thinking that if you minimize the number of information, you can get still a good result. I must say I don't agree with that, and I would say that when you define or describe process or whatever, you take the information and the number of, let's say, pages, it's only a word, that is needed, so that the thing is understandable. Later on, when you develop the process and descriptions and whatever, you can minimize when you know and what you can take away. But in the very beginning, it's very important not to count the pages and you just put the information in the process that makes it clear. Another thing, if you think about the process, what is it used for, the process should be, it should define the best practice in the company for this certain thing. And also it should be included, including improvement methods. I'm referring here several times to Lean. That is a very good tool and a system. And we've been using that pretty much in Finland, much less than we ought to be using. But anyway, this is a good thing. Best practice should be always included in the process. In the company-wide, when we get new people, people change places, so orientation, training is something that is very, very important. And if the process description or whatever procedure is not good enough, so it can't be used for the purpose. When defining or describing, making these process descriptions, it's very often that we take people along and they get interested, they are very, very keen on developing and so on. And one vital meaning for the process to be correct and so on, to get better, is that we involve the people, employees in the process who are dealing with the process, so that the implementation is good enough, they understand what they are doing, and they understand that it should be improved all the way. And this means performance improvement continually. Now, about visualizing processes, originally when I prepared this presentation, I thought about a 45-minute session, and when I learned that it's 25 to 30 minutes, so I took pretty much the big part away from the presentation. But anyway, the system, the idea of processes, that should be something I would like to give you. You have to understand what is the company all about, big picture of the company. Then you get to the single processes that can be flow charts, it can be business process models and notation descriptions, and then you have these interacting processes, sub-processes, whatever. You ought to be able to define the main process, key processes and sub-processes, make a process map. I'm not very much talking about process map here, but if you think about the big picture of the company, I think that is important. And process description shouldn't be differentiated from this big picture. And when we think about the management system, I have some examples here. They are in Finnish, but it doesn't matter. They are only pictures. So when you define what are you doing, what is your company like, you have web systems, web programs, and so on. I'm using nowadays iGraphics programs for the most part. So you have to think what are we doing, how do we look like, and what kind of information we are using when we are defining, making these, let's say, company presentations. This is like very often that the internet and web pages on the internet, or what we are using. And here you can see that it doesn't have to be always that simple and let's say boring. I'm coming to this later on too. So if you think about this kind of a flower kind of structure, it's containing all the same information as information on those others. So you just defined how do you like your company to look like, what is a picture, big picture, where you get the processes in. When we think about how to describe the processes, there are very many alternatives, and I would say that, for example, in Finland, Word, the written text, written definitions and so on, so that is still very often used. And if you like to get some flowchart included, so written text and flowchart, or you can use Excel. Even though I've never been very fond of Excel, I've been used to use this, and I have found good ways to use Excel, but not in the process descriptions actually. We have several traditional flowchart or description tools, and if you don't have any other thing, so PowerPoint is a good thing here. I mentioned you about iGraphics, and then we have a little more sophisticated tools for the process descriptions and modeling and so on. And you have, besides iGraphics, very many other tools that are used for this or meant for modeling and analyzing. You can also simulate the process to get information, how to define, okay, how to get it better, shorter times, and whatever you like to have. And then this business process model and notation, that is not for some reason so very widely used in Finland. I don't know why really, because it is very practical and it's a very formal, good system internationally. Let's look at a few of those now. Okay, sorry, I forgot. Lately, mind mapping tools have been developed that are including also this flow charter and process modeling. And when you get those, if you are using those, you can get the project plans based on the project description and so on. So these are modern tools. There are actually no limits. You can use what you like, what is most suitable for you, and what you like. One example about this, let's say, business process model annotation, BPMN. Here's a discussion cycle used and described by the iGraphics. As you can see, it's pretty simple. It has clean information and so on, and all those symbols have clearly defined purpose, content, and they are internationally defined. So you very easily understand what is it all about, and you can get the definition and information in the system, in the process description. Now I see I have to go a little quicker. Flow charter and other descriptions are here, for example, that iGraphics is using and what we are using. You can have a general basic process diagram and then swim lane based cross-functional process. And here are different other tools you can use. And value stream mapping, for example, that will be mentioned later on. So that is very good when you think about information and process management. Information, what you are using, you get information there and you make it visible and so on. Also, Lean Six Sigma is a very good thing to use, but I'm not going to those details this time. Because of the shortening time, I decided to show just a simple example about basic process diagram, and it goes to supply management. This case is it's kind of semi big picture of a bigger approach. Here we have a company, sourcing and procurement, and we have this master data management, whatever included in the system, supply negotiations, procurement, material receiving, supplier claim handling, and then here we have this supply management. But if you think about the big picture of a minor entity, for example, so it's very important to think about what is the process management here, what are the goals and targets, KPIs, what is this organization that is doing these things, and then you go on. Supply management generic process, that is here, so it has phases that's taken up, and when these phases have been agreed, then we get to the into those pictures, what are they all about. And this is the very common, I think you all know this, that when you define the process, then you start defining, for example, you have requirements, criteria, and it can be defined by the using process description. It can be also like this self-assessment, can be Excel or whatever description that is suitable for you to make this information valid, and that you can use, the people can use, and so on. In the supply management you have initial approval, and that is very, let's say, common things. So you define those, and when you get rid of this phase, Then continual supply management is the last phase, and here's something about that. These are so small pictures, you can't read them properly, and it's not the purpose, but this is the way actually you break down the system, and when you go further, there comes a limit where you can't use anymore the process description. You get to Word, Excel, PowerPoint, whatever, Microsoft or whatever, what else programs that are the most suitable for this purpose. Everything in the way that is suitable for the purpose, that is very important here. Thinking about description of the process, what is the best way to describe this? I have here, let's say, healthcare process description. It's pretty large. It's compressed here. And when we did this description and definitions, so there are several places where we are using Word. Then we are using Excel tables included. They open up when you click the symbol, and also some of those PowerPoint things. DigiPicture, whatever, that is a very good thing to do and use. It opens up a new world when you are not only using these simple technical symbols. And here you can see that, for example, these persons in the picture, this is a company where there was an artistical director in the organization. He was one director in the company. And when we made these processes, so the persons or these figures, they are very much look like the person in the real life, and that made the process very living, and everybody liked that very much. Now, the latest thing in this very short session is visualizing process management. We need goals and targets, etc., etc. We have already gone a little through. What we need for management of the process. There are very many other things also, but make it short. We need goals and targets and actions, how to get to those targets and achieve the goals. Resources are needed, and then this, let's say, process owner-led follow-up analysis and actions. When this is going on and working, so then we can find out whether the process is working or not, whether it needs improvement or not. And when thinking about the visualizing of the process or this process management, here we have a huge amount of different examples and possibilities, and I took up a few here, starting scorecard, balance scorecard, whatever scorecard you are using company-wide. And traffic light system, there's one example about this later on. That is a very good thing. You notice the status at the moment, where what you have to do you have to improve things or not, and so on. A lean table of value stream mapping, there will be one picture about this one, and then the latest actually discussion improvement boards in the company. That can be any place. And you can also define, like for using iGraphics processes, you can make in the process the traffic light, and that is very important. It's very nice, because every time the process, if you have the simulation effect in use, so you can see where we are directing, what is the color of the process generally, and besides this traffic light scorecard, so you get to see how does the process itself look like. Excel traffic light dashboard, that these can be found in internet very many different forms. But for example, here we have an example. We have different products, and we have timely analysis here. And in June, for example, this is the status of the different products. And it's only that you have to be familiar and know how to use Excel and so on. But it's not very difficult. And if you don't have more sophisticated tools, Excel isn't a bad thing for using here. I hope many of you have been using Lean, and one of the tools and systems you are using for the most part is value stream mapping. You define how the process is going, and when defining these, you have to, it's not automatic, you have to feed the information, but you put information in different phases and parts of the process description. And also, for example, here we have work balance information. So you can, making or using this value stream mapping, you get this information, and hopefully you get it the way that it's very easily visible and to be used. A very simple thing, you have a team, process team, lean team, whatever. So on the wall you have improvement boards, and especially if you have TV, those info TVs, they can be situated in the factory and wherever. So you get information that is continually updated. What is the status of things? Those are the modern things I think very many of you know. And there are so many different examples of how to make this visible. So it's not it doesn't make sense to try to find those holes. But I mentioned something. When you have process, this is business BPN MN model. So when we have one item here, using some certain program, you can have this visible. How is it in correct sales quote going, and do we have calculation errors? You define what you need to follow and what you would like to make visual. And here, for example, call center performance example, incoming call ratio, resource allocation, utilization, staff level in different departments, and so on. So these are examples that there are no limits. You have imagination, and if you have good tools, okay. Now I've used my time, and the intention for this short presentation was to give some ideas about the process, how to visualize it, and then this visualizing process management. And I hope you got something. This was pretty short, and even though so many things included, so I hope you enjoyed this at least a little, and thank you for the interest. Now there's a situation or place for questions and answers.
Thank you, Markku, for this presentation. Now, with the time left, we will go ahead with questions. Therefore, if you have any questions, it's time to ask them. Please use the comment box or the raise hand function. Thank you. Markku, we have a hand raised here by Samuel. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and unmute your mic, Samuel, and you can go ahead and ask your question.
Okay.
Your mic is unmuted. Samuel, you can ask your question. I believe his mic is not working. Samuel, if you would like, you can write your question in the chat box and I will read it out to Markku. Until then, the next question is, what software mapping tool do you use for creating the maps as shown on page 12? Thank you.
For the most, actually all of the examples are prepared by iGraphics Flowcharter, iGraphics Process or process for Six Sigma. So that is I've been using for about 20 years iGraphics process programs.
Thank you.
And just if I made a comment, this is not any advertisement, but this group of process programs is very simple. You can start, simple flow charter tool, and if you like, you can widen it till an enterprise level process management tool that can be used by iCloud and cloud and so on. So therefore, I and my customers have liked it very much because it's not restricted to some certain need.
Thank you. The next question is, from your practical experience, how often have you seen that top management or the CEO has portrayed their understanding of the big picture to their employees?
Well, that's a very good question, and I would like to discuss it a little more further. But I would say that later, at the moment, today, I'm talking about Finland. So very many CEOs and the top managers really have taken the task to understand the company and making the big picture. To be honest, I only know a lot, let's say about 5 to 10 persons who really have been doing something themselves, so they've been dealing with or making the big picture. But let's say they know and regard it as an important matter, so that is increasing. And I would say better and better, but not too bad. Do good anyway yet.
Thank you, Markku. The next question is, what is the best process tool to measure labor productivity?
That's a very difficult question. Actually, I must say that in this time, I would say that there are several that can be used, and as I mentioned, this iGraphics that can be used. That's for sure. But there are several others, and not to be specific to any. So I would say that you just check in the, for example, internet and using this wording, so you find surely these kind of things. But I can't recommend any directly.
Thank you. The next question is, who is responsible of processes monitoring? Can it be process owner?
Yes, of course. Actually, if you think about process monitoring, making this monitoring happen, that should be the responsibility of a process owner, and maybe the company top management together. But if you think about monitoring, so the people doing the employing in the process and dealing and improving it. So monitoring should be the responsibility for the most people in the team. But if you need one word, I agree with you, process owner, yes.
Thank you. The next question is, can you use different tools at the same time when operating one process?
Yes, you can. And therefore, the picture where I recommended using the best possible visualizing or informative tool in any case. So you may have a process description made by one tool, then you get information or give instructions in word and so on. So you may very well, and it's very often done also, that you make a mixture. Then we have a web-based process management programs that include all things there, but you don't need to have such a program. It's good enough when you have a good, let's say, flow charter or process description tool, and then you link to those different other programs or tools, whether they are Microsoft or whatever. So no problem. You can combine those.
Thank you. The next question is, which other ISO standard besides Six Sigma provide companies with efficient process management?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Which other ISO standard besides Six Sigma provide companies with efficient process management?
Well, I heard the question, but I must say that Six Sigma is not an ISO standard or a standardized thing actually at all. And if I think about ISO standards and this kind of matter, so actually the only or main thing that is which properly understood and properly used is this ISO 9001. And that makes the operation and it's dealing about the requirements for processes and so on. So going deeper and deeper to that, so here we are, this is the standard, but Six Sigma, it's not referenced to ISO standards, but it's somewhat different and much bigger and better tool. So you don't have to separate these things. You can use Six Sigma and these Six Sigma tools in defining or developing and rationalizing processes. That is one thing, but you can use these things together. So I would say that a combination of ISO 9001 basically and Six Sigma and take Lean here all together. So these things, they can be used and should be used together if you're very process management oriented.
Thank you. The next question is, what is the most common formalism for process representation?
If you think about a simple process descriptions and so on, so actually it is this what is seen here, for example. So you have swim lane where you have the resources, activities, or the responsible persons and department or whatever, what is happening. So if we think very simply this, what is the most common, this kind of swim lane based type process description is the most common.
Thank you. Another question is, thank you for the good examples. Have you ever used video movies for process visualization?
Yes, thank you very much for the, I didn't remember that one, but yes, we have, and that is a very good thing to do. So all those things you can use, what makes people understand and see what's really happening, whether it's pictures, sticky pictures or whatever, these short videos, they are included. And for example, if I make an example, you can add a video clip to one symbol, and when you're clicking it, you get the information there, and that is a sample how to do, and then you add to the criteria to this video or a different box. So this is a marvelous, very good idea. Thank you very much for the reminding.
Thank you. The last question is, what are similar mistakes that companies make when implementing a specific tool correctly?
That is a very hard question, actually. When you are using whatever the description or process management tool you have, so you ought to learn first how is it working, what is it for, what can you do with it, the program, the tool. And when you are using it, then try to utilize most of all those characteristics, what it's built for. And you have to be able, you have to learn to use the tool. Actually, there are so many tools, so many ways and so on, so it's very difficult to describe anything else, but learn to use the tool you have and you try to understand it. So and learn also how this tool and the information in the process description is becoming a part of that big picture of the company or the major process or whatever. So that this description really is working, you understand it, and also when it's always one comment still. As I mentioned during the presentation, that very often people and employees get very excited in defining or making the process descriptions. They are encouraged and they really like that. And later on, when this process description is existing, it's the interest is vanishing a little and it's not so interesting anymore. So therefore, we ought to be able to keep the interest up, and that means that if we get the feedback, we have this visualization of the process management, so they can get feedback, how is it going, they can act something or do something to improve the performance, and then they can be satisfied, employee satisfied, satisfaction, well-being, and so on are results of this one. So we ought to keep this process descriptions and updating living, so that people really are in that and they don't forget these descriptions. Like any other management system, documentation shouldn't be just pages, shouldn't be just it's done and it's backwards somewhere. They should be part of the daily work, and it should be updating and changing, improved all the time.
Thank you. Because of the time limited, we will have to conclude this presentation. However, if you have any other questions, you can send your questions through email and we will answer to them individually. Thank you again, Markku, for this clear and informative presentation. I want to thank all attendees as well for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us today. We hope you enjoyed the webinar. To keep up with our webinars, please check PECB's webinar schedule in our website, pecb.com, or our official social media network, since next week we are organizing webinars on interesting topics. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.